Hi, everyone, as you're coming in. Oh, lovely to see you. Please say hi in the chat. We'd love to see where everyone is coming from. I'm Isioma. I'm currently based in Lagos, Nigeria. Please let us know in the chat where you are coming from. I see a couple of familiar faces and some new faces, so definitely introduce yourself. Oh, we've got from New Jersey, got Westchester, okay. I was in Pennsylvania just a few weeks ago. Oh, excellent. Chicago, Mexico. We've got quite a spread here. Lovely to see everyone. So as people are trickling in, oh, New York, got quite a few from New York. Excellent. So as people are coming in, we have a great one for you today. I don't know if all of you are familiar with Julia, but I understand why a lot of us are interested in this particular talk, because I imagine, like yourself, and a lot of us are entrepreneurs, we want to be able to sell our products and to sell effectively. So when I hear that someone is an expert scaling coach, I'm very interested. And clearly you are as well. So I think we are just going to have Julia up in a minute. So I'll just say a few words about her. So Julia Pimsleur is the founder of $1 Million Women. She's a scaling coach, mindset expert, speaker, and best-selling author. So she's the founder of $1 Million Women, a New York City-based social venture, which has helped thousands of women entrepreneurs scale up their businesses. So since she's in sales, I'll probably leave her to give a better introduction of herself. So Julia, please take it away. Everyone, we have Julia Pimsleur.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to get to meet more women from Ellevate. We've actually done many events with Ellevate throughout our 8 years of running $1 Million Women. We've partnered on summits. We've done some live teachings. So it's always a joy to be with the amazing women in your network. And thank you for enabling this to happen today. Very excited to be here. I have Rachel Vollmer with me. Maybe you could just give a little wave. You can find her in the chat if you have any questions about $1 Million Women or anything that comes up here. And I'm going to keep this very light, engaging, have you guys be able to ask questions. I want this to be really interactive. And I'd just be curious before we get started, if you have had sales training, say yes. And if you have not had sales training, say not yet, because you're going to get some today. So either a yes or a not yet. And I think we have some of my New York sisters here. I heard I'm from Manhattan. I grew up in the city, and I heard there were a few people here from New York, but I'm also delighted to have people here from all over the world. How cool. All right, we've got a whole bunch of yeses. Super. So I'll be curious to hear what you guys have to say about the psychology of sales. We're also going to go into breakout rooms, so there'll be a chance to share some of your expertise from your sales trainings in there. So let's get started. And that is where you can answer any questions I ask you. I wanted to get that chat fired up. While I'm getting my slides going, why don't you just throw in the chat, what is your biggest fear around sales? Is it getting a no? Is it not being sure how to close the deal? Is it you just don't like it? What's your biggest fear around sales? I have a feeling everyone has one, or you wouldn't be here at this particular roundtable. And I'm going to ask Rachel's help so I can stay focused on my slides. Do you mind reading out a couple of them? You don't have to read them all out, but maybe just give me a little sense.
Yeah. So someone said, I don't like it. Another person said, don't want to seem pushy. Capacity and burnout. Turning a no into a yes. Fear of rejection.
Those sound like the ones we hear a lot. Yes, I also hear often women say, I don't like talking about pricing. I get uncomfortable when it's time to tell the person how much I charge. Those are a lot of the key things that come up. Anything else popping up there, Rachel?
Another one was starting the process. So feeling like I have to give too much away for free in the beginning and not sure what to say to get referrals.
Wow, these are great. All right, thank you. Let's save all those, Rachel. Those are good ones. So let's dig in. The reason this is called the psychology of sales and not sales training is that I found over the years that women come to me when they want to grow their business. If you call your company $1 Million Women, you tend to attract very ambitious people. And then when I ask, well, have you had sales training? The answer is almost always no. And yet most women would rather talk about where they get their bikini wax than get sales training. It's not something most women are rushing out to do. So I've realized over the years, we love psychology. Who here took psychology in college? Almost every woman I know took psychology in college. All right, right? And we read books like by Brene Brown, and we love studying psychology. So I've decided to package up some of my key findings that will make you successful in sales around psychology, just to make it more fun and accessible. So here we go. I'm already sort of talking about how I approach sales, which is really from the place of how do we keep it interesting, fun, light, make it something that we look forward to. And I never really set out to be a sales trainer. I still don't think of myself as a sales trainer. I just like to help more women make more money. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Very interested in closing the economic gender gap, one business at a time. If for whatever reason you're not an entrepreneur or you're thinking of starting a business, but you haven't yet done it, this will all be very helpful. And if you are an entrepreneur, the things I'm teaching in this training are the very things that I've been teaching for 8 years in $1 Million Women, and have helped thousands of women to close deals ranging from $50,000 to $150,000. So there's probably at least one thing in the next 15 minutes that I'm going to share that could make you another $100,000 in your business. So I'd like you to be on the lookout for that. These are a couple of books I wrote: $1 Million Women, Go Big Now. Neither of them is about sales, but I talk about sales a lot in both of them because you can't take the sale out of scale. So if you want to scale your business, this is the best thing you can be doing, is learning about sales. These are some of the trainings that I've done. I know I have some fellow sales people here on this call, so maybe you know some of these. I am certified in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I'm a master practitioner, done Sandler. A lot of people have done that training. I'm always reading books about sales. These are 3 actually I recommend highly. $100 Million Offers, Never Split the Difference, Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. This training will not replace what you learn in these books, but you will be getting some of the highlights right here in the next 15 minutes. So I'm going to teach you my 5 best tips in the psychology of sales. Here's the first one, and probably the most important, which is that if you can stop thinking about selling as something that you have to do and kind of like the bitter pill that you have to swallow before you can do the part you love, which is serving your client, giving them great results, solving their problems, and instead shift your language and your mindset to, I'm not selling, I'm serving. All the best salespeople, if you ask them, how do they think about sales? They really think of it as service. And again, I'm not going to check the chat because I have Rachel to help with that so I can stay full screen. But I'd love you to put in the chat if this is something you've already encountered, or especially those of you who said, yes, I've already done sales training. Do you think about selling as serving? And feel free to use the chat while I'm talking. I think we're all good multitaskers as women. I'm sure you can listen to me and put something in the chat like, yes, I made this shift and it made a huge difference. You all have as much to learn from each other as you do from me. So this one shift alone can make you another $100,000 in your business. Why? Because as soon as you stop thinking of selling as something that makes me feel uncomfortable, out of integrity, anxious, nervous, I don't like it, and think of it as, how can I serve this person at the highest level? Getting on every single call and going to every meeting, ready to ask great questions, ready to help that person really dig into what's keeping them up at night, kind of peeling back the layers of the onion of their problem. And then, and only then, if you're the right person to solve that problem, you will come to that conclusion together. Once you change it from selling as kind of a do to serving, which is a do with experience. And that has helped so many women make so much more money in their business because they can kind of exhale like, oh, every single call isn't a win or lose situation. Like, are they going to say yes or are they going to say no? Instead, it's you serving them and helping them with their problem. And if they're meant to work with you, they will absolutely work with you. So that's the first one. You're serving, not selling. The second big shift you can make in psychology is to understand that people buy in order to move away from pain, not to move towards pleasure. Now, how does this pan out in your business? They're moving away from pain, not towards pleasure. this is counterintuitive. And if you look at a lot of marketing, it'll say, you know, come to our resort and spa and you will get a pina colada every single day. And we will turn down your bed and shower it in gold leaves. And you're going to be treated like a queen and blah, 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 right? Those are all what are called benefits. And that is all going under the assumption that we buy because we move towards pleasure. Now, what's the problem with that? Who has seen at least 10 websites that say pretty much what I just said, right? If you're going to go to a luxury resort in Mexico or Cancun or Turks and Caicos or wherever you're looking at, Jamaica, they're pretty much all going to say, we're going to treat you like a queen. You're going to be so happy. You're going to use the spa. You're going to eat great food. We're going to bring you drinks. That is all moving towards pleasure. But moving away from pain is what really motivates people to buy. So the better way to put that on the website would be, have you ever gone to a luxury resort expecting to be treated like a queen, but then when you got there, it was B-level service? Did you ever go on a vacation so excited to be pampered because you worked so hard, and then when you got there, you had to wait an hour every morning for breakfast? The drinks were watery and you couldn't even detect any hint of alcohol in them. If that's ever happened to you, don't worry, we've got you covered, right? And to remind people that they don't want to have a bad experience they had, and you can be the solution to that. So the way that works on your sales calls and sales meetings is, rather than like diving into all the amazing things they're going to get when they work with you, it's helping your client or customer to see that the problem they have that they came to you with probably is only going to get worse if they don't work with you, and that you can help them to avoid any further pain. Because here's the thing, if they're getting on a call with you, put this in the chat. Do you think they, just yes or no, did they wake up that morning of the day you had the meeting with that problem? Yes or no? Is this like the first time they've thought about that problem, the day they got on that call with you? No, my people who've done sales are going, no way. How long do you think they've had that problem before they got on the call with you? Hours, days? Rachel, help me out here, please.
In years, forever, a long time. So yes.
Forever, I like it, yes. And sometimes I ask when I'm training women in sales, you know, how long did that person you had that sales call with, how long had they had that problem? And sometimes it's like 8 years, 10 years. So how could you serve your client at the highest level if they've had a problem for 8 years or 10 years? You could take away that pain. Would that not be the highest way of serving them? Now, here's the catch. If you're not trained in sales, it's very possible that you will uncover that pain and then release them back to the universe. And the problem with that is they will then go sign up with the very next person they talk to who is trained in sales. Because people who have been trained in sales know what I'm teaching you here, that people buy because they move away from pain, not towards pleasure. Now, that doesn't mean you can't ever mention the benefits and the wonderful things that you'll do for your client or what your business does. But when it's time to get that yes, it's all about moving away from pain. Now, this has a name. It's called loss aversion. And that is one of those psychology terms that you can go Google and use in your business next time you're selling. This might make you another $100,000, that people are way more likely to take action to move away from pain than towards pleasure. And I'll give you one last example of that. If I said to you all, hey, there's a text in your phone right now that says that you can make $10,000 between today and tomorrow. How many of you would get off this call to read that text? Probably not that many, right? I probably have like 10 texts in my phone right now telling me how I can borrow more money, make more money, do this, do that. Why aren't you dropping off the call to go check that text? You're like, yeah, it'll be there later. I'll find out later how I can make another 10,000. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. All right. Now, what if I said right here, right now on this call, hey, Isioma, I think you better check your text because you have a text that says that someone just withdrew $30,000 from your bank account. Would you get off this call, Isioma? You can unmute.
I would be out immediately.
Gone, right? Well, thank you for illustrating loss aversion. So that is like a playful, fun example, but that's what it's like for our clients. And when we, chatter on about all the amazing things we're going to do for them, they're like, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But when we're trained in sales and we can tap into loss aversion, That's when the magic happens. All right, let's keep going. So here's another great psychology tip. This is tip number 3, master future pacing. So future pacing comes out of NLP. It's when you take your client by the hand mentally. We're usually on Zoom or on the phone for these things, but if you're in person, even better. And you walk them through what's going to happen in the future if they work with you. We tend to be very bad at imagining a few steps down the line. We can think about today, maybe next week, but we're not good at thinking about, what's going to happen in my business 6 months from now? And now that you've learned about loss aversion, this can be a really great way of helping your client or customer to see that they need to work with you. Because maybe you're going to do future pacing around what's going to happen if they don't redo the website. Let's say your company designs websites and someone's come to you saying, my website is really out of date. Rachel and I were just looking at one of our websites today going, I don't know, is that really current? I think we need to redo it. So if someone got on the phone with me today and we did a share screen and looked at this one of our websites that I think is out of date, and they said something like, well, Julia, so in 3 months, if you haven't fixed this, like let's say you just leave it the way it is, what do you think is going to happen? And I would probably say, well, gosh, I guess people will land on it and maybe not do the thing I want them to do because it looks out of date. Oh, that's interesting, they might say. Well, what's a client worth to you? Well, on this particular site, about $2,000. Huh. Oh, and so like how many clients might you lose? I don't know. I mean, and then they might say, well, minimum 10. Yeah, I could probably lose 10 clients in the next 3 months. And then they might say something like, well, let me get the calculator. Let's see, 10 times 2. Oh, so that's $20,000. Suddenly I'm much more interested in purchasing their services, right? That's loss aversion plus future pacing. So we have to show them what's possible, both in the positive and the negative. Here are the negative things that will happen if you don't fix this problem, and the positive ones if you do. All right, let's keep going. We're on number 4. So when it's time to close, have you ever seen your client experience this? They feel kind of anxious. They get all flustered. They're like, oh my goodness, oh, it's $5,000. I didn't realize it was going to be that much. Well, if you're a coach, let's say, they might say, well, when's the next one? Or if you're pitching your services to a business, they might say, well, we need to have a few meetings. Thank you for coming in. We're not so sure. They engage in this behavior that seems almost like they're panicked. And we've all actually felt this way. Who can remember the last time you made a big decision, like, okay, I'm going to work with this coach and it costs $10,000 and then I have to pay another $10,000 in 3 months, or I'm buying a new car, or I'm committing to summer camp for my child, even though it's $8,000, right? Did you ever feel like just a little nauseous or like, oh, I kind of want to like just run out of the room right now? Throw in the chat how you felt about that. Anyone ever experienced this right when they're about to make a big decision? Anybody agree with me, Rachel?
Yep, they're coming in. I'm saying always, not if I know the value, I'm excited. Nausea is accurate. One person.
A little panicky, right? Like, oh my God, am I really doing this? Second guessing yourself. Well, great news. That has a psychology label as well. That is called an amygdala hijack. So the amygdala is a group of neurons at the back of the brain, and that is what monitors fight, flight, and freeze. So have you ever been walking down a New York street, my New York sisters here, and this taxi comes out of nowhere around the corner, and suddenly you have this like Herculean, speed to sprint across the street because you see this taxi coming at you. That's the amygdala helping you out. Whenever you're in a situation where you feel threatened in any way, your amygdala kicks up all these hormones that either makes you feel like I can flee really fast, or you just freeze. What was it? Flight, fight, right. Or I'm going to, take on a lion. This is the thing that kept our ancestors from getting killed out on the tundra, right? When there was like a big woolly mammoth charging at them. If we're here, it's because their amygdala hijacks worked. But here's the problem. We don't have any woolly mammoths charging us anymore. What we have is expensive programs that we join, sending the kids to summer camp, buying a car, and these things kick up that exact same feeling. Now, why is this such an important tip for selling? Because if you recognize it in yourself, you can recognize it in your client. And if you recognize it in your client, then you know it's not about you. Some of the women I coach in sales, are so caught up in feeling rejected when their client has the amygdala hijack that I suggest they put a little post-it on their computer that just says in all capitals, "It's not about you." Because it's not about you. And this can make you another $100,000 because the next time one of your clients is saying, "Oh, I don't know. Yes, I wanted to do this, but maybe now is not the time." Instead of taking it personally, you will just be able to recognize an amygdala hijack. Now, what to do about the amygdala hijack and how to coach them through that, that is the stuff of professional sales trainings and why people get trained in sales. I really like the quote by Jim Rohn, who's a big leader in the psychology and leadership space. He said, "Don't wish it was easier. Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better." And that's what I try to remind myself if a sale falls through. Now, if the sale falls through because they were not the right fit for me, that's fine. But if the sale falls through with someone who I know I can help them, I know I can solve that problem, they want it, they need it, and the only reason they didn't say yes to me is I didn't have the right sales training to get them there, that's on me. And that's part of why I started studying sales. Is I love what I do. I love helping women to change their businesses and change their lives. And I wanted to have the tools to help more people. All right, we're on number 5 and soon it'll be time up. There's my little timer. All right, I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes. Our last one is we need to show our clients that it's going to cost them more to keep the problem than to solve the problem. And that is called status quo bias. We are all more likely to keep everything the same than to make big changes. I mean, I'm a change coach. That's what I do for a living. And I hate change. I want to keep everything exactly the same. So nobody wants to make big changes. And when people are hiring you, it is to make changes, right? The first change they're going to make is they are going to take money out of their bank account and put it into your bank account, which is going to give them an amygdala hijack. The second thing is you're going to ask them to change things because whatever they were doing got them here, and whatever they were doing isn't working or they wouldn't be on the call with you. So helping them to overcome the status quo bias can definitely make you another $100,000 in your business. So let's just recap what we learned. We want to shift our mindset and think of sales as serving, not selling. People buy because they don't want to lose out on things. They're moving away from loss, called loss aversion, not really because of the benefits. Mastering future pacing is helping your clients or customers to see what will happen if they do work with you, what good things are on the other side of that, and then what bad things will happen if they don't, since we know loss aversion is a bigger motivator. Once it's time to close, in comes that amygdala hijack. Excuses, panic, queasy, I've got to go, when's the next one? That's when you have to have the sales training to help them overcome those objections and get to the place where they say yes to you, because if you don't, they will say yes to your competitor who may not have a better product or service, but just has more sales training. And last but not least, nobody wants to change how they're doing anything. Again, it's not about you. We just all have a bias to keep everything the same. So that's why sales training is so important, so that you can help people over that hurdle. And so if you're feeling like, okay, well, now I know a little bit about selling, where would I go from here? I developed a sales method over the last few years of training women in sales, and it's called the Sales Cure. I told you I would keep this simple and easy. CURE is the acronym for what you need to do on every single sales call or meeting, which is connect with the person, build rapport, uncover what their problem is, peel back those layers of the onion so you can help them figure out that it's going to cost them more to keep the problem than to pay you to solve it. Recognize that you're the expert and that you've helped lots and lots of people get over this. And last but not least, explain your product and services. Now, the untrained salesperson starts with, which one do you think? Which one do you think the untrained salesperson starts with? And this is one of those things, once you know it, you can't unknow it. You're going to see this everywhere. I've got Isioma nodding. She knows. You want to unmute. Which one is it? What does the untrained salesperson start with?
We're always explaining.
Yes, right. That is like my pet peeve when I get on the phone with salespeople and they just want to tell me everything about their products and services. It's like, you haven't connected with me. You don't know what my problem is. And I don't know that you're the right one to solve it. Thank you. Anything else in the chat, Rachel?
Nope, lots of E's. Everyone actually knew.
They knew that one. All right, awesome. So now what do we do before we go into the breakout room? Pick a method and master it. I created a method that's very simple and easy to master in 3 hours, but there are lots of methods out there. I showed you on that first slide. Pick something and stick to it. Learn how to overcome objections. That is one of the biggest Achilles heels I see with women, is that they don't learn how to overcome objections and they lose the deal. I always say it's easy to get the meeting, it's hard to get the check. Do role play. All this stuff needs to be practiced. You can't just think about it. You can't just read about it. You really have to practice it. And do learn about closing. My sales method is one of the only ones I know where we separate out closing. I think that's its own set of skills, or that's its own skill. And so try to spend the most time you can on learning how to close. It's kind of all fun and games until it gets to the close, right? Because we love talking to people and hearing what their problems are and getting to know them better. But then when it comes down to saying the price and overcoming their objections, that's when you separate the wheat from the chaff. So we're going to go into our little breakout sessions, and we have some questions for there. Before we do, in case anybody needs to pop off, we are having a 50K in 21 days challenge starting July 26th, which is where you can learn how to master this method that I just mentioned, the sales cure, and get 4 live trainings with me to keep learning. It's usually $1,499 because you're here and interested in learning about sales, and because of our partnership with Ellevate. Only for today until midnight Eastern time, in case you're in another time zone, it's $999. So that's a big $500 savings. I'd love to see some of you in there on July 26th. We have a number of women already signed up, and we'd love to have you with us. If you're interested, Rachel's going to throw that link in the chat with the special discount. If you miss the special discount 2 days from now, you wake up and want to take the sales training, you can just go to our website and sign up at the regular price. But highly encourage you to save the money. For those of you who are readers, take a screenshot of this. You can look at it later. This is what happens at every single one of the events. We've been running this for 2 years now and have had some extraordinary results of women closing a $60,000 deal right after learning the method, getting up to 50,000 during the challenge. And we do give out a big prize for whoever makes the most money during the 21 days. So let's go back to our breakout questions so that we can get some conversations going. Who is magically putting us into the breakout rooms? Crystal.
Yep. So the questions there, Stephanie, are you popping those in the chat? Well, in the chat, although
questions are in the chat, yeah.
But it will actually disappear when we click on the breakout rooms though. So can you think of a time a customer, you had an amygdala attack, and what can you do to not get stuck there? Those are the questions. And so get ready. We're coming into breakout rooms.
Should we do about 5 minutes and then we'll come back and debrief, and then we'll do another 5 minutes and come back and debrief? How does that sound? And we had one woman in our room who is not yet an entrepreneur, but is getting ready to be an entrepreneur, and was asking, how can I use some of these methods in selling myself, really, like to get my next job or to get people to invest in me as an entrepreneur. And the nice thing about this cure method, connect, uncover, recognize, explain, is that it actually flows through your conversations. It flows through your website, your social media. It's a whole new framework for selling that is really about, like I said, do with, not do to, where you're approaching every situation. I don't care if you're in an elevator with someone for, 1 minute, where instead of, oh, hi, I'm a recruiter. Are you looking to hire anybody in your business? Because I'm a recruiter. Here's my card, the E, right? You might start with, what'd you think of that party? I thought that party was kind of boring. I'm glad I'm in the elevator with you. You look like my kind of person, whatever. Start chatting, connecting. And then here's a magic question that can very quickly get you into the you. What's keeping you up at night? What's keeping you up at night, right? Personally, professionally, right away, you're talking about pains. And remember what we said, no pain, no sale. So the quicker you can get someone talking about their pain, the faster you'll see, is this someone who needs my help? Or is this just someone who's talking? In which case, that's fine, and move on and find someone who needs my help. There are 7.6 billion people on the planet. So there are people who need your help. And part of our job is to quickly move on from people who are not ready for our help or don't really need our help, so we can focus on the ones who do. All right, let's get some shares from the other rooms. How about, who hasn't spoken yet? Thais, I don't think you spoke last time, and I'm not sure I said your name right. Apologies if I didn't. Will you unmute?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd be happy to share.
Please.
The only challenge is that I'm new to the market. So, I don't have enough conversations under my belt yet. So I'm a CRM marketing coach for e-commerce, and I'm creating a course that I'll be launching soon.
Awesome. So I hope one of your takeaways is when you do your website and your social media and your emails to people, that you'll focus on what's happening that they don't like, that you can fix. Right?
Yes.
That's the way
Yeah.
that gets people. And you'll start noticing it everywhere, you guys, right? You'll be on a website and they'll be like, are you tired of going to a gym where there are no trainers and no one's looking out for you? And sometimes the air conditioning is on too high and sometimes you're boiling. Come to our gym because blah, 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 right? It's everywhere. But until you start paying attention to it, it can just kind of go by you. I hope some of this has been helpful, Thais, and I'm always happy to meet people before they start selling because you can go out of the gate with these great tools.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Super. And also, if you want more tips, we have a whole bunch of free videos about this on YouTube. Maybe Rachel, you could throw it in the chat. If you go to YouTube, I have a channel there, just Julia Pimsleur Coach. And we've been posting free tips about selling. So it might be a good review of some of the things that you learned here and some new things that we didn't get a chance to cover here. All free on YouTube. Super. Who else could share a little bit? Maybe Catherine, what happened in your room?
We were talking about time being one of the bigger challenges of actually finding the time to do, beyond the investment of money, to invest in the work that is required, a lot of the things that we may be doing to create the change. So
do you mean time to make sales, marketing tools and whatnot? Or were you answering the question, what objections do you usually get?
Sorry, the objections question. Yes.
Okay. So what does it sound like in your business? Like when someone says to you an objection about time, how does it sound?
It's interesting because the way it's framed now, it's not as much sales calls that I have to do. I'm not consulting anymore, but feedback that I'll get, since it's like 90 minutes up front, how do I fit in the time? Or a lot of our members are working moms. So we have gotten over that for the most part with walking them through the process of like, it's truly just this 90 minutes one time, and then we'll guide you the rest of the way.
Okay. Are you open to a tiny bit of coaching around that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Super. So when people are saying things like, oh, it sounds like it's a lot of time, I don't have time, or when's the next one? Or you know what, my kids just got out of school, maybe I can't. It's all just amygdala hijack stuff. And the way I treat it is like when you have a toddler and it's like 10 o'clock at night and they really should be in bed and they start going, I'm not tired, right? And if you're a parent, you completely ignore that. You just pick them up and go, I know, honey, you're not tired, and you take them to bed. So I try to channel that when people are going like, it's a lot of time, I don't think it's the right moment, blah, 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 because they're just afraid. They're afraid of change. They're afraid it's not going to work. They're afraid they're not going to get the results. So back to I think it was Stephanie who helped me out with the, what was it called? The reorienting, right? When your child wants something and you reorient them towards something else. I reorient them towards something they told me on this call. Okay. So in my sales training, we learn how to have a conversation where we're gathering information the whole time. And all that information we've gathered, we have at our disposal to get over the objections. So if someone was saying to me, I just don't know if I have the time, I would go right back to the pain they told me about at the beginning of the call when I was doing the uncover, the U, and say, well, you were telling me earlier that if you're not able to grow your business this year, that you won't be able to change your son from that public school that you said, he's getting bullied and they're not helping him with his dyslexia, and that you can't send him to that private school unless you make more money in your business. So I understand summer might be a busier time for you, but do you want to go into the fall with another $100,000 in the business? Or do you want to go into the fall with my son's going back to that public school because I didn't make the time over the summer? It's entirely up to you. Right? So there's nothing you can say or do that is going to change their mind. What's going to change their mind is realizing, I want this, I need this. And the opposite of doing this is worse than doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
One last little thing that could be relevant for others is, as women, we love to talk about what I call the how. Okay, so the how is how you deliver your products and services. Like, for instance, in my sales cure, right, I could have spent or my, sorry, 50K in 21 days that I was telling you about before, I could have spent that whole time talking to you about, okay, on the first call, I'm going to cover this, and then we're going to send you an email, and then you're going to get access to the portal, and then there's going to be a workbook, and you're going to fill it out, and then you're going to show up, and I'm going to coach you. That's all the how. So if you catch yourself doing a lot of how, stop it, because one, it usually like just confuses them. Like, could anybody picture what I was just talking about right now? Not really. I could picture it. That's all true. That is what we do. But your client can't picture your how. So don't take up their time or your time talking about it. Do as little of how as possible. When they're asking all those how questions, it's because they don't see the value yet. They don't believe you can get the result. They're scared. They're having an amygdala hijack. And that's where we need to have this amazing sales training to just be like, oh, I know you're saying you're not tired, but actually, I'm taking you to bed. Does that make sense, Catherine?
I love it. That's super helpful. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I love these questions. I know we have to wrap up, but you guys have been
Yes.
amazing. Thank you again to Ellevate for creating this opportunity, to Rachel for all the awesome support in the chat. Thank you guys for staying to the end. I hope you'll follow me on social media to get more tips and helps growing your business. I'm just at Julia Pimsleur on Instagram. We also have the $1 Million Women channel on Instagram. Maybe Rachel could throw that in the chat. And feel free to watch my free YouTube videos. And if you're sitting here thinking, wow, I didn't know how much I didn't know, then do consider joining our 50K in 21 days and making your next 50,000 or 100,000. So let's wrap it out. I don't know who's going to have the final word, but it's probably not me. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Julia. We have a few quick announcements before we go. First of all, we have Ellevate Squads coming up very soon, the deadline to sign up for Ellevate Squads. So if you're not familiar with it, basically it's, correct me, Joanna, it's built into your pro membership or executive membership. You can sign up for squads. You get to have weekly meetups with a group of women for a couple of weeks, for about 12 weeks. I myself found it quite helpful when I started on the entrepreneurial journey. So it doesn't cost you extra if you already have a pro membership. So definitely consider it. And also our next Entrepreneur Roundtable is on July 20th. We'll drop the link to sign up for that in the chat. That is our official Meet the Team. So those of you here, a couple of us in and out of the last couple of weeks. Well, our first official meetup is on the 20th. So definitely come. We'd love to meet you and learn more about everyone, in the Entrepreneur Roundtable. Thank you so much for coming.